So true.
So true. Okay. Okay.
Pretty.
So I can help with page numbers if you would like.
I'll keep an eye on where you're going.
I mean,
It's pretty
same deal.
the same thing.
Same as it ever was.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, nope.
I think that one's dead.
That's a dud. Nope. Oh, nope. Nope. Haha.
Aha.
Oh my god. So the Torah is in the right place for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And hopefully Nitsa will show up. Otherwise, Daniel gets an extra part or mark.
He's fine with that.
Yeah.
He's used to it by now.
Looks fun.
Cool.
So was Israel wonderful aside from
COVID?
COVID? The program was good?
Yeah. I made a lot of friends all over the world, which
That's
is
cool.
really cool.
That's fun.
And I got to hear how, also how tefillah sounds all over the world.
Nice.
That was really incredible. So we go from 142
Yeah, to 120.
to lighting the candles to the
one.
Chunar Ananon. Okay, so
To 130. Got it.
for Micha Mocha, well, let's start with the Chadodi Moroccan. Yes. Okay. And then for Hashkivenu, well, let's see, Micha Mocha, Lubavitcher, and Hashkivenu, Erev Shel Shoshanim. That one. Yeah. Is the monitor working now? It sounds like it. Is it working now? Speak. Speak.
Speak. Speak, speak.
I think
I
so.
speak. You speak. We all speak for speak.
I can
speak.
hear. I can hear myself.
I can hear
I can hear
whatever,
you.
wherever it's coming from, I'm hearing it. I don't know, but
As of right now, it's okay. But they are like really loud.
as long as the congregation can hear through their
Yeah, and
platforms,
they
we're
can.
fine.
That's fine. All right, here, and also I'll have the lineup on my phone. How about that?
Whatever. Did Joey meet you in Florida?
Oh, he had to work.
So you didn't see him for that whole...
It's the longest time we've been apart.
Oh my gosh. Woo.
My phone is on silent.
I want to make sure mine is. I think I did.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Berchoni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 lay, lay, ya, la, lay, lay, la, lay. Ay, ay, lay, lay, ya, la, lay, ay, la, lay. Ya, la, lay, ay, lay. Ay, lay, ya, lay, lay. Ay, ay, lay, lay, ay, la, lay, lay.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Take that deep breath and let the week go. It's been a trying week for some. For others, it's been easy. Wherever your week has taken you, we are now in time out. We are going to let the week move away. We will take the next 24 to 25 hours to relax, to study, to be together, to engage in time rather than space. The Shalom Aleichem that we just sang bids peace to us. It is a multicultural greeting. Peace be to you, O ministering angels, messengers of the Most High, Majesty of majesties, Holy One of blessing. And as we leave the week behind, we welcome Shabbat. We go like this, and we welcome the warmth, even on a hot day or night. We welcome Shabbat, full of light, full of the warmth of friendship and family. As we turn to page 120 in our Sidurim, and I invite Gabrielle, back from a long time, it seems, of vacation and learning, to welcome Shabbat on behalf of all of us. And if you have candlesticks, I invite you to join in lighting your candles with the blessing on page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
everyone.
Shalom. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. We continue on page 130 with L'chu Neranena.
L'chu neranena l'Adonai nari al-tzur Isheinu nekadma fanav v'toda bizmirot nari alo nekadma fanav v'toda bizmirot nari alo shiru l'Adonai shir chadash shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz shiru l'Adonai barechu shemo basro miyom leyom yeshuato sabro v'goyim kevodo bechol amim nivlotav haylay yalay lalay yalalay lalay haylay yalalay haylay yalalay haylay yalalay haylay yalalay haylay yalalay haylay yalalay haylay yalalay
Sing praise to Adonai with the lyre and melodious song. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, page 134.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, b'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai.
continue with Psalm 29, Mizmor LeDavid, page 136.
Mizmor LeDavid, Avu l'Adonai ben Elim. Mizmor LeDavid, Avu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz. Mizmor LeDavid, Avu l'Adonai ben Elim. Mizmor LeDavid, Avu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz. Avu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz. Avu l'Adonai kavod shemo. Avu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz. Avu l'Adonai kavod shemo. Ay, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Ay, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Adonaios, le'omo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Adonaios, le'omo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Ay, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Ay, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Adonaios, le'omo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Adonaios, le'omo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom.
Lecha Dodi, a poem that inscribes us with the author himself, thinking of him as the bride, as the groom, and seeing a bride come in and walk down the aisle towards us. We can start wishing each other Shabbat Shalom starting on Wednesday, because we anticipate from the moment that Havdalah candle gets extinguished until the moment we light the Shabbat candles, we anticipate the arrival of another Shabbat and hope that someday we will be able to celebrate an eternal Shabbat where we all feel like brides and grooms, where we all welcome time over space. We will be singing Lecha Dodi starting on page 138. And when we get to that last verse that starts with Boi v'Shalom, I invite you to rise and face the door of your personal sanctuary, wherever that may be, as if to welcome a bride into your home, into your midst, as we do Shabbat every week. Lecha Dodi, page 138.
Lecha Dodi likrat kahala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kahala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, yishmi'anu el ha'meyuchad. Adonai echad u'shema echad, l'shem u'letiferet b'nitila. Lecha Dodi likrat kahala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. ראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דרכי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דרכי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו אני אאמין, ונבנתה עירת הילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמונה עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Shabbat Shalom once again.
Shabbat
to
Shalom.
all of you who are on Facebook, who are on YouTube, those of you whose faces we can see on Zoom. I invite you to turn to your left and greet the person in the box next to you. Say Shabbat Shalom. And then to the right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You can reach out and give them that fist bump or handshake. There you go. I see Lila doing it. Yes, I see Tony too. And in a traditional synagogue, this would also be the time when mourners would enter the sanctuary to feel the love and support. And so if you are in need of that kind of love and support, know that we are sending it your way. We continue our service on page 140 with one more psalm, Psalm 92, another Mizmor Shir.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עזוב, עלי נבל, עלי היגיון בחינות. צדיק כתמן יפרח, כארץ בלבנון יסגר, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשני
we separate Kabbalat Shabbat, welcoming Shabbat to our Arvit LeShabbat, our evening service, with Chatzi Kaddish, page 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמדי ורח חירותי וימניח מלכותי בחייכון ובימיכון ובחייתך בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי תקדשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
I invite you to rise for the Baruch Hu, a prayer calling us to worship and to enter our own sanctuaries, page 146.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
You may be seated. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. We turn to page 150 as we think about the love that God has for us. Ever-ending, never-ending. Ahavat Olam, page 150. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. As we feel the love of God, and we, after, give love back to God, I invite you to close your eyes and think about something in your life that is only one, separate from everything else, something to which you feel loved and love back. With those thoughts in mind, we utter the words of the Shema, emphasizing the word echad. The dalet on the end of that word, the D sound, is emphasized so that we don't think about the word acher, which is other, but the idea of oneness, God.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai continue on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמן.
Adonai Elohim Emet. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Mi chamocha, page 158.
Yalai, 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 hi, hi, yalai, hi, yalai, 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 hi, yalai, 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 hi, hi, yalai, hi, hi, yalai, 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 hi, yalai, 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 נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, הלילה אל מלכותך, ראו פניך, בוקע ים לפני משה מרים. זה אלי אנו ואמרו, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, היי היי ניי 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 היי ליי ניי היי ליי 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 היי ליי 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 היי ליי ניי היי היי ליי 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 היי ליי ליי מלכותך ראו פניך בוקע ים לפני משה מרים. כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גואל ישראל.
Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Once we made it onto the shores of the sea, from the sea, children of Israel looked around and saw the expanse that lay in front of them. Little did they know it would be 40 years before they would reach that promised land. Night descended, and it was dark. It was scary. They heard the sounds of animals. There were no slaves' quarters anymore. They were really on their own. All they had was each other. And then they looked up to the stars, and they saw the promise of God to make them as those stars in the sky. And they asked God for protection as that night descended. So we turn to the Hashkivenu prayer, asking God to protect us from all that befalls us as our worlds become darkened, asking for light to reappear, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Ufros Aleinu, Sukat Shlomecha. Please, God, shelter us with your wings. Hashkivenu, page 160.
Ushmor tzedenu uvoheinu lechaim uleshalom me'ata ve'ad olam ufros aleinu sukat shalom echad baruch atah Adonai haporeis sukat shalom. Shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את הארץ. וביום השביעי, וביום השביעי, שבת וינפש. We begin the Amidah on page 164. Please rise in mind, body, or spirit, however you feel. Adonai sfatai tiftach ufi yagid ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may, that We're towards the bottom of page 180. Yihu l'ratzon imrefi v'higyon libi l'fanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru. Amen.
We put a nice, neat bow on our prayers of the tefillah by adding the words of the Mishaberach, prayer for blessing for those in need of healing, those whose bodies ail, those whose souls are in need, those who suffer from addictions, those who are in mourning. If there is somebody whose name you would like to put into the chat box, please feel free to share the name of your loved one with us so that we can bring them into our sanctuary. And it's okay to include yourself. The Mishaberach can be found on page 371. Wish them a refuah shlema. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say amen.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone, once again. It is good to be here, and it is good to be with Shabbat. Vatikravna benot Zelophehad. The daughters of Zelophehad approached. So begins one of the most intriguing stories to take place in the wilderness, a story where the bones of the developing society are laid bare for us to see, a rare narrative of the evolution of the legal code and of the organizing principles of our ancestral community. And how much richer and more rewarding a text that we might imagine. It begins with this proactive and dynamic move. The daughters of Zelophehad, a man whom we have never heard of up until now, a man who is distinguished at this point only through his death. These 5 sisters approach Moses and demand what they see to be theirs. And their father's right, inheritance of land for them, and continuation of name and memory of him. The very first word on the story is unusual, vatikravna. The feminine plural form of any verb is a rarity in Hebrew. especially in biblical Hebrew, which defaults into the masculine. However, many women here are involved, and this is an active verb, the action of drawing close to another, used routinely in the search for God, with the ritual of offering something precious to God as a sacrifice. The verb one might expect, of simply coming to speak to Moses, is rejected in favor of injecting a sense of closeness, even of implying relationship. These are no supplicant outsiders, but people whose perception of themselves is of being at the core of the community, who are able to treat Moses with proper respect, but without needing to beg. Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcha, and Tirzah are clearly of interest to the biblical narrator. Not only are all their names recorded, but in the book of Joshua, they appear again. And once again, all the names are listed to demand that what God had commanded Moses here in the wilderness was honored once the people approached the promised land. They obviously made a huge impression in their determination to inherit the land of their father and in their determination to work together. 5 women, siblings, imagine that, siblings getting along with each other. They jointly fight for their principles and their rights. Given the terrible sibling stories in the Bible, the first murder is fratricide and takes place in the very first generation to be born in the world. The relationships each of the patriarchs with their brothers and the behavior of Joseph's older brothers towards him. You might think that it wasn't even possible to get along with, let alone work with, your peer generation relatives. There is a vestige of a hint here that sisters might get along as long as they weren't interested in the same man, as in the Midrash on Leah and Rachel, but actively cooperating with each other for joint good. That is unique, I think, to these 5 women. Small wonder, then, that they are remembered with such particular definitiveness. Malcha, Noah, Hogla, Malcha, and Tirzah break the mold of sibling relationships, but they break other molds too. Up until this point, no one has come along with their own interpretation of Torah. God has simply given out commandments, either at reaching a new geographical place or during a social crisis. At no point has anyone so far as much as solicited a legal opinion from God on a matter that God has not yet discussed, let alone come up with their own innovation. This is something entirely new to the narrative. For someone to come to Moses with a principled resolve based on what they understand to be the right thing to do, and a clear vision of what a godly society should do. Rather than merely following rules which have been transmitted to them, these women are willing to innovate, to change the world in accordance with their own principles. As other women have done before them, like Sarah persuading Abraham to have a son by Hagar, Rebekah disguising the young goat as venison so as to claim the birthright blessing of her favorite son Jacob, the daughters of Zelophehad have taken matters into their own hands and changed the course of history. This is a radical shift in the development of the Jewish people. From here on, it's not only the males who can inherit the land. While one can make the case that ever since Eve in the Garden of Eden, men have tended to follow the rules which are laid down, or at least to interpret them with a narrow focus, women have brought about disjunction and change, and this is the first time that the women's behavior has been given the rubber stamp of God. Kain benot Zelophehad dovrot. The daughters of Zelophehad speak right. There is a divine approval for the different model of approaching the world, that of creating something new that is not connected with what has already been in place, of breaking new ground because one is driven to do so by a sense of justice, of the absolute rightness of the new action. The story of the daughters of Zelophehad is a story designed to remind us to stand up for rights, even if they are not yet perceived to be rights. It is a story to remind us that all things might be possible, even with a God who seems to have it all sorted out already, even in a wilderness where the right might seem to be too abstract or too unfulfillable to be relevant. The daughters of Zelophehad did groundbreaking work, which emerged from their confidence in themselves and the justness of their cause, from their supportive relationship with each other, from the need to link the past with the future and identify themselves within that future. They established a legal presence and right for themselves and for all women in the future, the right to control their own economic provision. We know that later on the right was constrained, but we also know that they set the groundwork for all that women today fight for. Daughters later married outside of their tribe, and while they achieved economic power for women, they were still kept away from the more potent power of the time, that of religious decision-making, at least within the public and recorded sphere. But that should not change how we view this radical model of behavior. You still have to stand up and claim your rights and responsibilities, even if you don't immediately or easily achieve them. You need to challenge even God if necessary, to battle for what you believe to be important, to make your mark upon the world by fighting to make the world a better place. As we know from current events, the world hasn't changed much since the days of Zelophehad's 5 daughters. You only have to look at the impact women have had on the rabbinate to see that generality in action, as this year marks only the 50th year of women in the rabbinate, starting with Rabbi Sally Persand. The question we need to be making and asking ourselves is not, why is the world so unfair? But rather, in what way will I change the world? Because of what I believe in, because of my own faithfully held principles. This is not only for women, it is for all of us. But we use this week's Women of Zelophehad as a model for our own possibilities. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Our service continues on page 586 with Aleinu. I invite you to rise if you are able, in body or in spirit.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגוהר עלינו כחמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל
may be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those whose days on earth have ended, those we recall who have died in recent days, those we take into our own hearts as days pass. If there is a name that you would like to mention, someone you are remembering, I invite you to put it into the chat box, and we will have Miles and Genevieve take a look and mention their names aloud for us.
Jonathan Kahazen, Randy Sostock, Rita Silverstein, a mother, and Jim Domnitz, cousin, Joan Friedman, Suzanne Clifford, and Molly Rossman.
I'm also remembering Jonathan Kazin.
And although the funeral has not yet taken place, I want to let you know that a longtime friend of TBT, Malcolm Cobrink, passed away yesterday. The funeral will be this Sunday at noon at Harbor Lawn in Costa Mesa. If it is your custom to rise for the Kaddish, I invite you to do so now as we turn to Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 598.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvisman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehe Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei al-maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen.
May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. While Gabrielle is retrieving the Kiddush cup,
But she will momentarily.
I will just let you know that tomorrow morning Torah study is at 9 o'clock a.m. Jake Sapiro is back in town and will be leading our Torah study on Zoom or in person. And then Rabbi Daniel will be leading services with Gabrielle. And next week is a regular schedule, as far as we know. But on the 5th, we look forward to welcoming Rabbi Tilchin formally to our congregation as our interim rabbi for the year. And then on the 12th, we have Men's Club Shabbat. And on the 19th, we have Back to School Shabbat, which will all be in person and Friday night services. And so we invite you to join us. There will be more information coming about those services in the weeks to come in your tidbits. So for Vayachulu and the Kiddush, we turn to page 123. If you have a wine cup, Mark, do you have your Kiddush cup? You usually do. There it is. I invite you to raise your wine cup and join Gabrielle.
Vayerev vayivoker yom hashishi, vayechu hashemayim v'haaretz v'chol tzva'am, vayechal Elohim vayom hashvihi melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvihi mikol melachto asher asa, vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvihi vayikadesh oto, ki vo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron ma'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher l'tziyat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat koshecha be'ahava u'veratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim.
L'chaim. And as a closing song, we will join together on page
178.
178 for Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom,
shalom.
everyone.